U.S. intelligence agency, mind control.
We've got a view of the war between Russia and Ukraine unlike any that we've seen until now from occupied Russian soil. Ukrainian forces are now holding parts of Russian territory. President Zelensky says they've taken control of a Russian town about 6 miles across the border. Our Nick Caden-Walsh was able to gain some of the first access to Ukrainian-held Russia today and witness their control over the town and the intensity of the fight. CNN was accompanied by the Ukrainian military, which reviewed the video you're about to see without sound prior to its release for operational security reasons. That said, they had no editorial control over what you're about to see. Here's Nick's report, and we want to warn you, some of what you're about to see is graphic.
This was never in Putin's plan, but still, into Russia we cross with Ukrainian forces moving forwards. Through the border post they destroyed in their surprise assault 10 days ago.
As we get closer towards Socha,
They
we can
fucked
see
that
more
border
smoke
post
on the
the
horizon,
fuck up.
but still
Oh my
it's
God.
bizarrely calm on this road.
Pause a moment in these open fields, and remember, this is the Cold War superpower.
Yeah, CNN went into Russia. Isn't that great?
That is pretty cool, honestly. We've had this discussion as well multiple times, I'm pretty sure, about how to pronounce it.
Unguarded, open, and
It's
never
Qatar,
expecting when
but
Russian
it's
President
Qatar
Vladimir
to
Putin
me. I
launched
don't
his
give
war
a
of choice
fuck.
2 years ago to be invaded
Oh,
back.
I'm gonna pronounce this.
A Russian dead soldier still in the road.
Yeah, like I'm gonna fucking pronounce Turkey correctly too. No, go fuck.
Well, not even the statue of Lenin is unscathed here. This Ukrainian assault, so persistent, and Russia, despite its sense of history, its sort of past as being so impregnable, completely unable to push the Ukrainians
And
out
now
there.
she's
The sound of
pregnant.
small arms fire, we can still
Knocked
hear.
her
So
up.
clearly there is a bid for the Russians
like,
to push back. But
It's so funny
simply
that
as-
it
It's
was
wild
like
that CNN's in
CNN
Russia.
that they did CNN of like it could have been like any like like minor one,
Yeah, could have picked
but
any
it's
of
like
like the up
CNN,
and
which is the
coming.
most recognizable like American
Hmm.
news that they're broadcasting from inside Russia. Like that's
Yeah,
like
that's literally why.
that's like an imperialism dick swing.
Exactly,
Like
right? Exactly.
America's laying all their meat out on the table right now.
hmm And I don't even think this would have been America's choice. I think Ukraine would have asked CNN specifically because of how tied it is to 9/11, how tied CNN is to the American empire. Like it really is
9/11?
tied to it. Yeah, the fucking 24-hour news cycle. They fucking did it. It's all CNN's fault.
That's nothing to do with 9/11.
What do you mean?
What are you talking about? 9/11?
What do you mean? CNN created the 24-hour news cycle
Yeah,
after
that is-
9/11.
It was way before 9/11.
That was when it really kicked off. That's
Nah,
when
it
they all...
kicked off when a plane went missing.
What plane? What?
I don't know, some plane. Exactly. What was the plane? It crashed in a bunch of water. They found out.
Sure.
Maybe it was the fucking Sikh terrorist attack or something. There was a lot of plane hijackings and shit.
isn't working, and humiliation Putin endures. Days ago, locals had honoured their war dead, but none since the Nazis led Russia to face occupation.
He shit his
You can
pants.
see the damage that's been done to this street here from the intense fight that raged.
To see the other press
Still
were just like,
clearly
fuck
active
yeah.
fighting happening here.
This guy shit his
A sign in the basement here live peaceful people, no soldiers. Ina, 68, says 60 civilians are there.
Yeah, what was the plane?
Iran hostage crisis?
I mean, yeah, but it was like the plane is what got what's his name, like Ted Turner. Ted Turner was like, all right, 24 hours from now on, and then that's what happened. It was some fucking plane fucking crashed in a bunch of water or something.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I learned about it in school. We had to learn like who invented radio, who passed the bill to like censor the radio, all that shit.
1995 with the O.J. Simpson case.
No.
CNN effect is what I'm thinking of. CNN effect theory in political science and media studies, which states that global television networks and their modern ability to provide live 24-hour news coverage from anywhere in the world play a significant role in determining the actions of policymakers and the outcomes of events. Yeah, that's what I'm fucking talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
But
So I was
you were
right.
talking.
Fuck
No,
you.
I don't know what you're talking about. You're talking about connecting what's going on in Ukraine to 9/11. That's what I'm still.
We're talking
confused
about
on.
CNN, for fuck's sake. You
Yeah, but you were like
focusing on
Zelensky
9/11.
connect it to 9/11.
Oh my god, it's CNN. I didn't give a fuck about the events. It's CNN I'm talking about, connected to America.
I'm
Fuck
just
9/11.
saying, why
I
are
don't
you
give
bringing
a
up
fuck
9/11?
about
bro?
9/11.
Why
That
are you
was just
bringing
an
it up
example
then?
that I
Why
picked
you-
of 24-hour news cycle. For fuck's sake.
But
Fuck
it wa-
9/11.
9/11
I don't give a
wasn't-
shit about it. I'm talking about
9/11
CNN.
wasn't really covered on 24-hour. They kind of rebroadcasted the same images, you know? They didn't just have the
Is that
cameras
not
out there.
24-hour news
Yeah,
coverage?
but like the 24-hour news cycle is like they were out there 24 hours a day filming. Right? 9/11, they were just like recycling the old footage mostly.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about people actually doing journalism 24 hours a day.
Oh, no.
I'm talking about CNN.
No, they would just
24-hour
cut to
news
cameras
cycle.
and be like, look, here, stuff happening.
Yeah, no, I'm specifically talking about a specific thing that CNN is directly tied to.
Just like we've seen in multiple Ukrainian towns over the last 2 years. Here, the locals trying to find some shelter from the war around them. Stanislav shows his grey.
Это же не жизнь. Это существование. Это не жизнь.
In the dark, huddled like so many Ukrainians now, the infirmed, isolated, begging for calm.
А теперь не знаю, чем закончится. Хотя это будем хорошим, чтобы мы не дожили. Нам не надо ничего. Только стылик мой, я не кажу. Тяжело очень.
Was it hard for the Ukrainians for the last 3 fucking years too? Am I supposed to have sympathy? Like what is it? Like I get it, you know? Like I understand that it's hard, but at the same time your country is occupying way more. 20% of the country roughly? How much do you think is occupied by Russia, including Crimea? You're not listening.
Day, night, light, dark, news or blackout all blur into one. Yefimov is over 90 and wants to leave to Ukraine, but there is no route out, he says.
Вы только первый год пришли сюда. Понятно. Ой, там у меня и дочки, и племянники, и внуки. Я-то русский, мужья у них все украинцы.
Again, ordinary streets that never guessed of their destruction or newfound fame days ago. Vacant in the storm around them. Normal life here vanished in a hurry, leaving store floors as barracks. And Nina, 74, out looking for a pharmacy for her medication.
Я нет. Если бы я хотела, я бы выехала. А почему я должна выехать? Там, где я 50 лет живу. Здесь у меня дочь на кладбище, мама. Ну, как на Украине, я живу на своей земле. А я не знаю, чья это земля еще, и вообще не понимаю ничего.
Interesting.
А я не знаю, чья это
I don't know whose land
земля
it
еще, и
is.
вообще не понимаю ничего.
I don't know anything anymore. It's pretty profound for a CNN story.
They'll get an Emmy.
It is a war that keeps turning the world order on its head, where wreckage that lined Ukraine's fields now
This
haunts
guy is
Russia's.
been
Ukrainians
in a
learn to
lot
pay-
of fucking conflict zones.
Mm.
Though this guy, like I know his voice.
paint over their road
From
signs to confuse
Syria
the invaders.
reporting.
But still here, the signs ask God to protect and save Russia. That was Putin's job.
Oh yeah, Putin's God to Russians.
It is not clear when he's coming back.
Uh-huh.
No, Anderson, it's clear that Ukraine does have the ability to project force pretty far outside of Sujda. We're not quite clear why there was so little drone or aviation threat from the Russians inside that town. We were told because the main fighting was using all that capacity from Russia further away from where we were. But we also saw, too, the volume of equipment and resources Ukraine is still pouring into that part of Russia that it's taken. And clearly the trip we were on was designed to show how much in control they are and relatively calm they are in Sujda itself. But it is not all
Yeah.
good news here. This surprise assault has certainly brought them international attention and the idea that they're on their front foot. But elsewhere in the east, near Pokrovsk, a vital Ukrainian military hub, they're seeing Russia getting closer and closer, potentially within 3 or 4 miles of the outskirts of that key area. And indeed, if Russia were able to use its artillery on that hub, it would be a significant loss for the Ukrainian operations in the east, in the Donbass. So give and take, certainly, but be no doubt at all what we're seeing.
Interesting.
The long-anticipated F-16 fighter jets have made it to Ukrainian skies. This video, published on August 4th by the Office of the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, serves as the first official confirmation of the delivery of F-16s to Ukraine. It's a big upgrade for Ukrainian aviation that until recently consisted only of Soviet-era warplanes. But F-16s won't be going up against advanced Russian systems, and General James Hacker, commander of U.S. Air Forces in Europe and Africa, says they won't change the battlefield calculus right away.
It's not going to be the golden BB
No.
or the golden bullet that all of a sudden
We've
have
spoken about
F-16.
this at length. Like you say that it's for missile interception. I would say it's probably for, missile interception and like ground cover, close air support sort of shit.
They specifically said Zelensky, the reason why he was originally asking for them was the missile interception capabilities.
Yeah, which makes sense. Like have mobile missile interceptors so the HIMARS can focus on strike.
Well, because that's the thing. It's just like the aircraft they have can do close air support already. Their systems aren't advanced enough to intercept missiles, though.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, they are, but not like a fucking F-16's systems are.
Also, the F-16 is they're so quick. They're so agile too. Yeah, force protection either way, exactly, 100%. But just being able to knock out missiles effectively would change a lot for Ukraine, especially with their dwindling numbers. Clearly, Ukraine is the superior force, like skill and sort of warfare based, but Russia obviously has the weaponry behind them. So it's a bit easier, I think, if I'm kind of thinking about it, I would imagine that Russia's, the sheer amount of artillery that they can use, missiles, artillery, just general supporting fire
Ukraine
has a lot.
What you're trying to say is Ukraine has better micro.
Sure, we can phrase it like that. But Ukraine just doesn't have the munitions to support their troops. It's that simple, and it's America's fault.
I need the people.
Yeah, that's mostly why. Because they're not going to tell us how much ammunition they really have.
And now they're going to go out and gain air superiority.
But retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Jeffrey Fisher says F-16s are highly capable aircraft.
Thanks, Obama.
You what?
I said, do you know whose fault it really is?
Numbers, they will have an impact.
When it gets to be 12, 24, 36, then it really becomes a challenge, right? Because now you're actually you're able to execute the mission that I think that Ukraine wants to be able to achieve, which is air superiority, right? To be able to control the air over their own territory and then project air power over Russian forces.
Ukraine has been promised about 65 F-16s by Western allies, but another challenge is a shortage of trained Ukrainian pilots. Former F-16 pilot Dan Hampton says a possible solution might be inviting former Western F-16 pilots to fly for Ukraine.
That's where people like me come in. All right. If the bottlenecks are removed that allow us to come volunteer and help with Ukraine, then we can solve that problem.
That would be interesting. Not just volunteer ground forces, volunteer air crew. That is an interesting prospect. Because if they're retired, they're not serving the United States anymore. What's to say they can't volunteer to fly an F-16 and they've already got hundreds of flight hours?
Listen, who's training the Chinese pilots?
American pilots. We already know this because they got.
So why the fuck are the restrictions there for Ukraine then?
It's because the people going to China to train the pilots were doing it under the table and illegally, which is why they got prison for it. I'm pretty sure they got fucked up for it. Is the minimum?
I'm just saying.
I'd have to look.
I'm not saying like the U.S. allowed it or anything. I'm just saying, why aren't they there?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about legality.
For now, Ukrainian officials.
The Bundestag is preparing its new budget for next year. And among other things, its draft plans to reduce the allocation for military support for Ukraine by half, from $8.8 billion to $4.4 billion. Parties in Germany's coalition government deny accusations from the opposition. And Berlin's commitment to Ukraine is in question.
All three government parties, from Social Democrats over Green Party over the Liberals, are still backing Ukraine fully. There's only in the Social Democrats, there are some of the old belief that peace should be bought without weapons. That's wonderful, but I don't see that coming out of Putin's brain right now.
The party's official explanation is that frozen Russian assets can generate billions of dollars for Ukraine under a plan by G7 countries. But there is also the reality that since mid-2022, sanctions have prevented Germany from buying cheap natural gas from Russia, and it had to purchase it at much higher prices from expensive suppliers like Norway. Economists say this has driven overall inflation in Germany. It hit 10% in 2022.
Energy costs initially in the first year after the beginning of the war increased by more than 50%. Food prices over the last 3 years have in Germany increased by more than 35%.
On the streets of Berlin, the price hike seems to be felt in many pockets.
Yes, tremendously. Everything. The price of transportation, food, everything has gone up.
And also if you go to restaurants, it's got very much more expensive going to restaurants. I think a lot of people don't go out so much anymore as it really you feel it in your wallet.
Far right and radical left parties are seizing on this. They're a minority in parliament, but they are gaining popular support. The left-wing BSW party, with 10 deputies of the Bundestag's 733, is one of those calling for a complete end to support for Kyiv.
Anyone who wants to end death and war must send diplomats to Ukraine, but not weapons.
The right-wing AfD party, with 116 members in the Bundestag, makes a similar argument.
We don't want to deploy our own material to Ukraine because we will need our own material to defend our country.
Polls suggest most Germans continue to support Ukraine's armed resistance to Russian aggression, but they also show the number is gradually declining. A recent European Parliament poll said more than 40% of Germans said they consider financial support for Ukraine excessive. And the same survey showed support for Kyiv's entry into the EU has dropped from 58 to 53%. For Ricardo Marquina in Berlin, Marcus Harton, VOA News.
First time
I can't believe
Ukraine's President
fucking
Volodymyr Zelensky.
Stingy from Lazy Town showed up in that last story.
Mm-hmm.
Someone in the audience is going
Clearly
to get that
stated the
joke.
goal of Ukraine's military operation into Russia's Kursk region. He says that it is to create a buffer zone to fend off any future attacks by Russia across the border.
I told
Almost
you.
2 weeks into the offensive,
That's
Ukraine
what
says
you
that
guys
it has
gotta call
captured
it.
nearly
Buffer
400
zone,
square
but it's
miles
legal.
in
Anyone
Russia's
can
Kursk
do
region.
this.
Our
Anyone
Ian
can
Lee
do
is
this.
following the latest from the Ukrainian
Such a fucking cop-out.
side of the border.
Good morning, Emery. This is as close as Ukrainian troops will let us get to the border. We're in a village about 5 miles from Russia.
Unless you're CNN.
And as you can see, the fighting has left no home here untouched. 3 people were injured in an attack on this house. We spoke with some of their relatives who said Russian artillery is no longer a problem, but they're now being hit by missiles and drones. Nonetheless, they're happy that Ukrainian troops are pushing deeper into Russia and that Russians are finally getting a taste of what the realities of war are here. Now, last night, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky laid out the objectives of the incursion, saying it's to destroy.
It's I don't know. I feel conflicted because it's not their fault.
Who?
The Russians. Like the people, right?
Yeah.
But to what extent is it not their fault? You know what I mean?
I mean,
Like
I think, unlike most people, I think the images from October 7th were extremely distressing, especially spitting on a girl's corpse and shit.
Yes.
So, of course, like, the impact on civilians is distressing.
Mm.
You know, you have to ask yourself, okay? John Brown killed people who weren't slave owners. They just advocated for slavery. They advocated for the side of the slave owner.
Mm.
Right?
So is that right? Is that an apt thing to do, do you think?
I think that's a question you have to answer yourself.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the situation.
I think that's generally the correct position to take. Because like I'm not like, because you would hope that Ukraine pushing into Russia like this would be more discriminate.
Well, Russia also posted that head on a pike that they did. That was epic, huh? See that?
When they
Yeah.
invaded.
Huh?
When they invaded.
No, just the other day, the head on the pike.
Oh no, I didn't
They
see
cut
that.
well, they. I don't know if I don't know if there's evidence presented on how the head was removed from the bodies.
Mm.
You know, because
Yeah.
decapitations can happen in a battlefield. So they may have just had the head, and you know,
Did
they may have executed the person. They may have taken it
Mm.
posthumously, or it just may have been like, "Hey, free head. I'm going to put this on a pike."
Yeah, we don't really know.
Yeah, people might. I just don't. Is what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure there is. It's only a photo. Which again,
Yeah.
if it's only a photo, I also have to ask the question: is how
Is it
legit
fake?
it is? Because
Yeah.
Russia loves just doing psyop shit like that too.
What does Ryan Macbeth say that they're called? Active measures?
Something like that.
Something like that. Hold on. This one. They started two of the worst wars in history. The answer is clear. They should not be given any power.
Yeah.
Moscow's fighting capabilities and to create a buffer zone on Russian territory. Over the weekend, Kyiv destroyed 2 key Russian bridges. That'll make it harder for the Kremlin to move in reinforcements to stop Ukraine advancing. But there is frustration in Kyiv. Ukrainian officials believe they could make even further gains.
Yeah, like Trump's wall, but instead of blocking people out, it blocks the Germans in. That's what we should do. Just lock them. And actually, you know what? Include Austria. Fuck it. They can have Austria as well. Wall around Austria and Germany. Just keep them away from the rest
You
of the
ever
world.
play the game Papers, Please?
And
No.
You know what that is, though?
Nope.
Oh.
They have the weapons. The only problem is the most effective ones are supplied by the West, including the United States, which forbids them from being used on Russian territory. Amory.
Uh-oh, German
Ian,
spotted,
thank you.
German spotted.
Earlier, I spoke to Associate Director for Rand Arroyo Center and Senior Historian.
So quick.
I remember when I got up
For the Rand Corporation, Gian Gentile.
I believe this specific tangent came off the fact that Germany is lowering its support for Ukraine, but not Israel. Funnily enough, interesting. So I guess the funding of genocide is more important to Germans than the counter-imperialism. But no, yeah.
I like that
I don't
video
know.
where they get
What about
very,
you?
like, you don't get to complain about the quality of bagels in your country because it's endangered.
What about the developments? And I asked him about the specific area captured in the Kursk region and how this will be an effective buffer zone.
One reason I think was because it was more lightly defended than the other parts of Ukraine that Russia now occupies after the February
They're
2022.
never going to let that down.
Yep, and they shouldn't.
One thing is worse than the other, I gotta say, though.
Invasion. And the reason why it's a buffer zone is in that map that you have there with the blue area, right close to the border with the orange area. The
reason
Russians had
why it's a
artillery
buffer
there, and they could
zone
strike
is because
into the
we
Sumy
studied
region
it.
in Ukraine and hit military targets and, like the Russians do often, hit civilian targets as well. So I think that's what the buffer zone creates, Emory, is that protection from Russian artillery. But again, it does what they're doing is that, and it's a lot more.
And really, really quickly before I let you go, you know, Volodymyr Zelensky is continuing to ask for permission to strike deeper into.
That is true. That is true. It shouldn't be a requirement to support Ukraine, but at the end of the day, right? If you as a country, right? Because Germany's interesting because what's her face? The fat hag that just got kicked out of power. What's her face? Angela Merkel. She actively got convinced by Russian agents to shut down nuclear power plants, increasing Germany's reliance on Russian gas. resulting in the building of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, right?
Oh,
and
but
the
it's okay
shutting
because
down.
the
Hold on.
sanctions have stopped
Hold
that
on.
Russian gas
Hold
going
on.
there, right, Jack?
And then the nuclear power plants are now all gone, and now the Nord Stream pipe is gone, and now Germans are fucked. All
But Jack-
because you
but
guys
Jack-
listen to Russian
Jack-
propagandists. So hold
But
on.
Jack, no,
Hold
don't
the
tell me to
fuck
hold on.
on.
Don't tell me to
No.
hold on. Listen to me. But the sanctions stopped that Russian gas from going to Germany, right?
Oh yeah. Germany doesn't go to Azerbaijan to buy it. No.
Oh, wait. You mean now enabling 2 different genocides in Europe?
Just to get Russian gas
Wow.
because Germany's government and its people were convinced by Russian agents that nuclear power is bad. That's just one example, friend. Russia is not your friend. You should support Ukraine. Germany should support Ukraine because it fucks over Russia. Purely because it fucks over Russia. Also, the guy who blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that Germany is apparently going after with charges, the Ukrainian diver, don't charge him, knight him.
I don't know if they have that.
Fuck Russia. like goddamn. It's just like yes, supporting Ukraine shouldn't be a requirement. You don't have to support Ukraine, but going so far as to say we are actively going to now withdraw support in a time after America has crippled Ukraine's defense purely from inaction, right? Also, Russia's not going to stop. Why would they stop? Their complaint, right? So let's actually talk about this. So Russia's complaint was NATO's on my doorstep, right? They invaded Ukraine because Ukraine was flirting with NATO. They used the same, I don't know the exact term of it. I'm just going to call it agent imperialism, where they send agents in, they cause uproar
Yeah.
and
The little
unrest,
green
and then they say that they're all Russian speakers, or they're what other countries do this? There's a few
well, I
countries
mean,
that have done
Russia specifically does it though, with like
Yeah.
like Igor Gherkin is. I mean, he's confessed to all of it.
Yeah.
He
So it's like
he said this is all true, and that he
yeah,
did.
so that, like they'll send these agents in, and then when they're told to get fucked, they'll send the Russian imperial movement in there, Nazis, and then the
Mhm.
Nazis will go in and fuck shit up. And then when the country responds to violence with violence, they say, "Oh no, they're attacking Russian-speaking people."
They bombed a Bombas.
Right, and then from this, they bombed people. They bombed Russian-speaking people. They then send the military in, annex the territory, and all start a war, just like they did in Georgia, just like they did in Ukraine, and just like they will continue to do as they continue pushing, because Putin has said himself that the Soviet Union's fall was the biggest thing, the worst thing that happened in the 20th century. He's also said that he yearns for the Russian Empire again. He's also admitted that the Russian imperial movement, Dugin and Nazbols, are all major supporters of his. So
I'd also just kind of look at statecraft on what enablement of genocide is going on. So obviously anyone allied with the US is enabling the Palestinian genocide.
Yes.
Right? That's a pretty bad one.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the only one going on. Right? So you also have to look at partnerships with other complex countries like Turkey or Greece or Libya. You know, these countries, actually look where Germany's links are in these countries, which I'm not like an expert on German foreign policy. I know like Euro policy, inter-Euro policy, because they're very important in the EU. I mean,
Yeah,
they basically run that shit.
Yeah, well, and that makes me nervous, but I also don't really know much about their foreign policy. I know that they get pushed around by China a lot. It just seems like Germany is very weak internationally for some
Yeah,
reason.
I'm talking about
just
like
pushovers.
where's their palms
Mm.
greasing? Who's greasing
Yeah.
Germany's palms? I mean, because they have a good economy. Some of these got to be out there.
Yeah. Also, let's not forget that Germany also aided in giving Saddam sarin. So there's also that.
Oh, also, Germany has been like a big leadership country in the disposal of nerve agents and other chemical weapons. They have a really advanced nerve agent disposal facility in Germany.
Really?
Mhm.
How do they do it?
It takes a long time, I guess.
It's interesting. But yeah, Germany sucks. Germans are fine.
They do have good.
Don't get together in groups.
I think I do back
Send
Germany. I do
Germany.
back Germany with the Supply Chain Act.
Yes.
That's
And
one of
like
the best policies.
Israel. Why? No, I haven't. I don't think John has.
No.
Area, yeah.
They don't give us a free trip. Almost.
Russia.
It's difficult because
I
you have to
understand why
think about
tactically.
like where I am, right? Where I was reporting from, right? So it would have. If the question is, would we consider the place that I went to Israel, right?
Berlin.
Because like
talking about Germany.
No. Oh well, no. I was talking about the fucking Golan Heights, which because like being in Syria, I could get there, but like that's a lot of fucking Assad.
Are you aware of a CIA psychological profile about you, sir? Would you be interested in hearing what the CIA had to say? This secret study portrays as a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac who is likely to pursue his own aims in disregard of U.S. interests. He's an uncertain ally. Shall I go on, or would you prefer that I stop, sir?